Morning.
Hey, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks to athleticgreens.com/surf and neatessentialsusa.com, who will be at the Boardroom Show this year.
That's right. Neat Essentials. It's going to be at the boardroom along with Surf Splendor and wow. Shoot, I don't
And
know.
who else?
A lot of other people, 150 booths.
That's crazy.
Yeah, September 25th and 26th, basically 2 months from today, more or less.
Okay.
2 months
It'll be here in a flash.
I know. I'm so busy. It's ridiculous in a good way. I'm glad to be busy.
You know how you can stay motivated and active through it all, Scott? athleticgreens.com/surf. Use our promo code, which is /surf. It keeps us in business. And of course, you get a year free of vitamin D.
Well, absolutely. And as you know, I'm a big fan of Athletic Greens and Neat Essentials. And yeah,
on to today's show.
Okay, yeah.
Unless you got more.
I was going to chime in with, I just got back from a trip and I brought my Athletic Greens with me.
Was it a surf trip?
No.
Oh, okay.
Family trip.
Well, I agree. It's key on travel. I mean, how much does your diet get messed up during travel?
A lot.
Holy mackerel. Don't have your Lorna Doones handy.
Exactly. There was no Lorna Doone intake whatsoever. And as soon as I got home, I had to glom onto the Lorna Doone.
So I actually saw them in the grocery store and I almost bought them, but I was making a banana pudding for like a get together. And I was buying 2 other cookies, Nilla wafers for the banana pudding, and then a chocolate cookie to layer in there too. And I was like, I do want to try Lorna Doone, but is this really the time where I need Lorna Doone when I'm buying 2 other cookies?
Man.
So
should have bought the Lornas, bro.
Maybe that'd be okay in banana pudding.
It's okay in anything. Are you kidding me? It's okay in like lasagna. You know what I'm saying?
Start dipping it in my Athletic Greens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then it kind of cancels it out. You know, the good just fills in all those little crevices in the Lorna Doone. Ingesting vitamins and minerals with the Lorna Doone.
Lorna Doones are pretty good, bros. Hey, you know what? Yeah, guy. Welcome. It is Spit. It is Tuesday, July 27th, but you know what day it is in Japan, David? It's Wednesday.
And yes, I do know. Yeah, go for it.
It's it's Wednesday, so it's a day later.
Exciting.
And I mean, gosh, I guess the opener is we have the first time ever gold medal winner in Olympic surfing, and it's pretty cool. I think it's a pretty cool thing.
I mean, the entire competition wrapped up a mere 7 hours ago. So this is hot breaking news. And I got to say, it was exciting, actually. I feel great about it. Yeah. The waves could have been better, certainly.
Yeah.
But I didn't expect we'd have any waves at all. And the waves were very contestable. Plenty of consistency, of course. Do you want to talk about what the waves were like?
Well, yeah, I mean, this tropical storm bore down on the nation of Japan, and it produced this onshore wind, short period, 10-second period, 6 to 8 foot, wind swell, basically storm swell. And so there was plenty of opportunity, plenty of ramps, right? The wind was great for aerials. We saw some of the most incredible, in my opinion, probably the greatest aerial ever performed in competition, I think.
I agree.
And that was from Gabe Medina, that was Gabe. In my opinion, was it Idolo? Idolo's one, where it was after Gabe. Gabe did the first one, his very first wave, in Gabe's like second, third round heat or whatever, quarterfinal or semis, I forget. And then Idolo went out there and just stomped the most massive backside aerial, just landing in like below the flats. Like his transition was like a leg breaking spot. You know what I mean?
You
go ahead. You're a little bit better at describing the aerial situation than me.
The only thing that saved him, I think, on that landing was his tail actually touched the lip as he was coming down, and the lip was already like almost hitting the trough of the wave, but it just ever so slightly just graced it. And I feel like that was a little bit of a cushion so that his ankles didn't take the full brunt of that impact.
Yeah, it was amazing. And And I mean, immediately my text with my buddies, my text chain with my buddies here in San Diego was like, how is that not a 10? In my opinion, that was a 10. I mean, that if they would have given 10s across the board, everyone would have said yes. There wouldn't have been anybody that said no, I don't think. I mean, that was incredible.
It's hard to argue against, other than the fact that maybe somebody could do a turn and then an air like that, but they probably couldn't, even because you needed that much speed to get that amplitude.
Yeah, and I guess, I mean, okay, so they do a little fin check turn at the top. I mean, at some point, it's like, do you give points for standing up?
Right.
I guess you do. But I mean, at this level, it's like, come on, we know they can all do check turns.
At this level, I don't think you do, actually. I kind of agree with you. The one air is enough to warrant the 10-point ride.
We've seen it before, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, so for the record, he got a 9.76 or 9.73.
Right, exactly.
So this is key. There's a bunch of stuff that we need to unpack. I'm not sure what the best order is. However, the event had marginal surf, and I was kind of watching it and trying to explain to Lauren, and I got together with some friends on Saturday night, and they don't surf. So I was trying to kind of explain what's happening to them. And it's all very nebulous and not that thrilling and not that exciting, but there are consistently one or two surfers that will just show up and blow up no matter what, and just add excitement. And by the way, save, whether it's the WSL or the Olympics or whatever, they'll save all of that kind of monotony and drudgery by doing something spectacular. And Idolo was that guy. This was a wave that would have been surfed to a 6 by any of the other competitors. I mean, I rewatched it just to kind of make that assessment. And I was thinking, what would Kolohe have done on this wave? What would Caroline Marks, Carissa Moore, John Florence, any of them have done on this wave? Kanoa Igarashi. It's like, okay, they would have done a turn, but it was kind of a separation on the wave. Then they would have scooted into that and they would have banked it. Maybe they do an air reverse. They would have got a 6 on that wave. Idolo just showing up and like imposing his will, whether it's Pipeline, Chopu here, is like, that is incredible. He deserves the gold medal, It was amazing.
Totally agree. And it was full speed, full stomp, full on. There wasn't any, let me hold back here so I make sure I make this type of tone or vibe that he was putting out there on that maneuver. It was just full. I mean, the announcers expressed the excitement and the understanding of how incredible it was. And frankly, I mean, look, the top 4 surfers in this event, it was Idolo, it was Gabe, it was Owen Wright and Kanoa Igarashi. Pretty clear who the top 2 guys were, in my opinion.
For sure.
And I would like to unpack one thing because I missed this. So when Kanoa was surfing in his quarterfinal heat against Gabe, was it Gabe or was that the semis?
I don't remember.
Well, he surfed against Gabe, and Kanoa beat Gabe, and that must have been the.
Oh yeah.
That was to get into I forget how they worked it, but
Gabe started off semifinal.
And Gabe started off super strong, and he I think his first wave he had like a 9.9 or something pretty good, like an 8.3 or something. And I missed because I missed Kanoa's wave that made him get better. What did Kanoa do? Explain to me, because I apologize. I did not see his second ride that got him above Gabe. Gabe was sitting. Yeah.
It was a big air reverse on the end section on his, like literally in the dying minute of the heat. It was a super clutch performance. This was a heat that everybody would have just presumed Gabriel was going to win.
Yeah.
And not going into the heat necessarily, but just by watching the first 20 minutes of the heat.
Exactly.
Like Gabe had it on lock. He does exactly what Gabe does. And he seemed to kind of nullify Kanoa. Kanoa got an opportunity at the end, and Kanoa's strength is not buckling under pressure. Kanoa is going to show up, and I've said it a million times before, he's going to get 2 7.5s in every single heat. And often he'll then kind of increase on those scores, but he's going to get 2 7.5s, whether he's at a terrible beach break or Pipeline. And that's what he did. He needed the score. I don't remember exactly what he needed. It was more than that though. It might've been like in the 8 range.
Yeah.
And yeah, he got a medium-sized, good-sized wave with a big ramp at the end, did a really sick air reverse, got the score deservedly.
Yeah.
And it was clutch. It was exactly what you would hope to see from a Japanese performer on Japanese soil with all the pressure of the world on him, elevating his game.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear it because I didn't see it and I wasn't sure if it was controversial or not. It sounds like it was just very clear cut.
There was only one controversy I saw, and it was with Julian Wilson against Gabriel Medina in the previous round, or maybe 2 rounds previous. Did you see that?
No, I didn't watch that.
So it's kind of important because this could be the very last heat that we ever see Julian Wilson surf.
Right.
And basically Gabe, kind of towards the end of the heat, Gabe needed a score and he ended up getting it. It was a 7.5, but he was outside of the contest zone. He was super far to the north. And so Gabe, they gave him the score. Gabe wins the heat. Julian and the Australian team went and filed a petition, like a formal protest to the ISA. But the ISA's response was that Gabe was outside of the contest zone, but that doesn't result in any penalty. The only risk that the competitor kind of runs in that scenario is that the judges might not see you. So once you're outside of that zone, the judges aren't obligated to actually witness the wave, but in kind of practical terms, it was a 2-man heat. They could see where Gabe was and they did witness the wave, and then the cameras got it too. And so they gave it a 7.5. So Julian's protest was denied.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That is interesting, right?
Yeah.
Julian's last competitive event was marred by a protest of his.
Well,
so is it a metaphor for his career?
Not necessarily. We'll get into Julian and some of the other losses, but first I want to kind of give credit to where it's due. And firstly, we leveled a lot of concern and criticism about what the Olympics would be like. And it was mainly centered around that the waves could be flat, non-existent, non-contestable.
Yeah.
I would like to commend everybody who committed to this thing because it ended up being awesome. And the amount of work involved and backlash and haters that you have to kind of overcome and sidestep and just keep trudging forward, not for the past month that we've been talking about it, but for years and decades for Fernando Aguirre. So Fernando Aguirre, of course, deserves the most kudos, but even kind of throughout the last couple of months, and COVID and all of it, it was just like an seemingly unsurmountable thing. And for all the elements to align and for swell to actually arrive was awesome. So congrats to all of those people. We also deserve blame because we didn't discuss any of the female side for the last week or two leading up into this event. And Carissa Moore is the only American who actually brought home the gold for us. So I think we are kooks in that respect.
I think we are kooks, and congratulations to Carissa Moore. I actually saw her first round heat and I didn't think she looked too sharp. She kind of barely got through it. She was losing at one point, and good on her. You know, that's pretty cool. I'm stoked for. I agree with you, David. Basically, I don't think it could have gone any better. Understanding all this, you know, the situation that everybody was in. So, the wave showed up. Yeah, it wasn't perfect J-Bay, but it was way better than we expected, which speaks loads to you and I and our whole thing about expectations. You know.
Yeah, it does.
And it was. The format was was a little bit lengthy, but that's just the nature of surf contests. But it's interesting when you put it side by side in context of the other competitions, you know, like the mountain biking was the final was an hour and a half, and that's what they showed. They basically just showed the final 20 guys for an hour and a half. And I was like, this is kind of long. And then you think about the surfing, and I guess the surfing finals were only maybe an hour and a half when you put the women's and the men's, the 2 gold medal matches. But you and I, who kind of digest all of it, it's the nature of surf contests. It's pretty long. It's pretty long to watch.
I think this might be a good opportunity to listen to a listener line message. Did you get the one that I sent you this morning?
Yeah, I did.
From New Zealand?
Yeah.
Kia ora, brothers. Jono here from Aotearoa, New Zealand. Now, I've just been watching the Olympics, and I think we could probably gripe about the plethora of things that perhaps aren't going so well, but I just wanted to point out something I think that, you've flogged a dead horse about for a while, and that is the smaller number of surfers. I'm a contest director, but I'd be thinking that if I was wanting to adjust the WCT, I'd be wanting to vividly scale that right back to less surfers, because how much nicer has it been to have a smaller field of competitors, both on the men's and women's? I know it's a funny number, but it's been great. Just something I'd point out. Aroha nui, big love, stay classy team, love what you do.
But John from New Zealand is talking about the reduced number of surfers in the Olympics and how he preferred that to the WSL's traditional format. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, as he said in his voicemail, we're sort of beating a dead horse here, but I think less surfers is a good thing. And like I said, you and I have spoke about this at length numerous times, but we don't.
This is the first time we've got to see it play out.
Yeah. Look, they had 20 surfers. It was pretty, I thought it was great. I think 16 surfers is fine.
You know what I prefer about, I agree with you. Another kind of cool adjustment to the format was deciding on a third place finisher. Did you see this? Yeah. So traditionally in the CT format, whoever finishes in the semifinals gets an equal third. Right? So they had the semifinalists who lose. So there's two semifinalists who would have gotten equal third in the CT format. But what they then did is made them surf against one another to see who would win the bronze medal. And I was like, this is so, first of all, I absolutely care who's third versus fourth. So why have I just resigned to accepting that there's going to be an equal third in every event and an equal fifth in every event? And okay, you guys are even. No, that's so stupid. Absolutely pick a third and a fourth and a fifth, and not pick, but make them earn it. And secondly, we don't need all of that redundant surfing at the beginning of the event for CT events, where it's the 33rd surfer surfing against the 28th surfer, and then they get to surf 2 or 3 heats, non-elimination. It's like, no, the people we want to see surfing redundantly are the top seeded surfers. So no eliminations all elimination rounds in the early rounds, as far as I'm concerned, weed out numbers 30 through 15. And then once we get to the point, or eliminate all of that entirely, but once we get to the pointy end of it, sure, then there can be a couple of redundancies, not for the sake of giving people a second chance, but for a sake of making somebody earn a legitimate third and a legitimate fourth.
Yeah, that makes sense. The only thing is that it does sort of speak against our desire to have the event run quicker. Now, I know what you're saying. You're saying get rid of the back half of the BS and just include 1 or 2 more heats at the end where it's important. And yeah, you're right.
Look, it runs long if there's 20 surfers, but if there's 12, you can have this extra little heat and, still run in one swell window, in theory.
Now, did NBC do any, was there any, did they show the medal ceremony on primetime TV? Or maybe they'll show it tonight because it ended so late last night.
I don't know. I haven't been watching NBC.
Because it'd be cool if they showed the medal ceremony. But I guess because, Carissa, they should show Carissa's, right? We got an American winning gold. That's usually what they show. When an American wins gold, they'll usually show, a tape delay version of the medal ceremony. So I hope they show that for Carissa's sake.
How are you watching the event?
Well, so I was watching the event live through the NBC stream on the website, and then of course at the same time I was watching primetime Olympics, swimming and gymnastics and everything on my main television.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have regular cable, so I don't have NBC, but I was watching the website stream.
What cable do you have?
We don't have cable. We just
Oh, no
have, we
cable.
just watch like Netflix and that sort of stuff.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, most networks have an app. So if you actually wanted to watch CNN or whatever, we could stream it on the app.
Yeah.
So another couple of shout outs.
Yes.
Bianca Butendog. Hadn't even thought of her name since she fell off tour. And which is a shame because when she was on tour, she was one of my favorites. I was always rooting for her. And so to see her pop up in the draw, I was like, oh, sick. And she freaking blew up. Bianca surfed amazingly throughout the event.
Yeah.
And ended up being a finalist, actually. Ended up taking silver against Carissa. So that's huge for Bianca in South Africa.
You know who I was secretly rooting for?
Who?
36-year-old Sylvana Lima.
Yeah.
She was kind of shredding, man. She was like, I think she was leading the heat up for a long time. But, you know, she didn't go very far. But
unfortunately, she drew Carissa in the early rounds. So the eventual gold medalist.
Yeah. Maybe that was the heat I saw. Maybe that was the heat where Carissa started off kind of slow. And Sylvana was like banging that shore break, that end section where it kind of just bottoms out into like cement almost and just pounds. And she was,
you want to know the problem with Sylvana Lima throughout her entire career? This has plagued her.
She falls at the end.
Falling.
Yeah.
It's like such a basic thing that you would think you need to figure out in surfing or skating or whatever. And she freaking falls, and she surfs incredibly well and will often, you know, get one huge score on the board and then just cannot back it up because she falls. And I don't know how you don't tighten that up.
Yeah. What else?
So other shout outs. Amuro Tezuki got the bronze. Amuro Tezuki, the Japanese female surfer, surfed amazingly throughout the event. She's only come onto my radar in the last year. She's on the CT. I don't even know if she's actually on the CT this year, but she's surfing a lot of heats, maybe by way of an injury wild card, or maybe she is on the CT. I'm not exactly sure, but I thought she's been surfing amazingly on the CT, and she has a little bit of inconsistency. So I think that's prevented her from really getting into that top 5 position, but her talent and certainly her style indicates that she'll probably be here for a long time to come. So when she showed up in the Olympics, I thought we would kind of see the same. I thought we would see her have moments of greatness, but probably be ousted by, you know, the world class kind of competitors. But she didn't. She didn't falter at all. She ended up taking down Caroline Marks in that bronze heat, which I thought was amazing, you know, because Caroline's the one who generally is super sturdy and doesn't falter in those situations. So shout out to Amuro Tezuki.
Yeah, it's weird. The Japanese surfers in general, you sense that their mental game is there. It's just more about their technique and their skill level. They just seem to be able to handle it. And even Hirota, the guy that I had picked to win it all, I think within the first 20 seconds of the heat, he was down by 9. Like, I think it was either Gabe or Idolo got like a 9. Yeah, Gabe went out there and his first turn was just insane. He stomped with insane air. I think it was a 9.33.
Actually, you're right. It was the Idolo air that we were talking about.
Okay, yeah. And so immediately he's behind the 8 ball for the next 35 minutes or whatever. And, you know, he sort of chipped away at it and he did what he could do. And the entire time he surfed, not only obviously really great, but he surfed with sort of, you know, the hope that maybe a miracle could happen. He didn't give up, is my point. And I think the Japanese nationals, they seem to have that in, I don't know why, but they seem to have that in spades.
Yeah. So he obviously was behind the 8 ball because of Idolo's air, but then right after that, he was stuck inside for like 10 minutes in the impact zone, trying to make that paddle out and just getting flogged. So that didn't help either.
I'd also like to make note of, I don't know, did you see Michel Berez's heat where he was behind and he got that pretty deep barrel?
I didn't see it.
That. He got a really deep barrel. And Barton Lynch was like, oh my God, that could be the 9 or the 8 that he needs. You know, we've seen it before. Us surfers, we love the 2, blah, blah, blah. And he got a 6.33. And Barton was like, well, maybe it's because all the technical stuff is really in the air these days. But I would argue, and I know you would too if you saw it, that this was an extremely technical tube. This was like behind the curtain, chocolatey, you know, not an easy thing to get through. For sure, you're like, oh, he's done. There's no way he made that. And then he comes through it, sort of semi-doggy doored, and then set up and did a nice big top turn. And I was a little disappointed that the judging didn't go higher for a tube that any surfer who's a surfer worth of salt was like, that was incredible. That was an incredible tube. And the judges just didn't go there. And you know, I guess that's the nature of the beast. Maybe when we go to Chopu in 4 years, 3 years, we'll see more. Obviously, we'll see more of the tubes being scored. And this was just more about technical game in the air this year.
Yeah, that's brutal. I thought he was surfing incredibly. He was not somebody who I expected to do well at this venue. And I feel like he did his best surfing that I've seen in years.
Yeah, he surfed well.
It's pretty spectacular. So among the surfers who were kind of surprise losses, Hiroto Ohara, unfortunately, for the reasons you mentioned, Stephanie Gilmore, basically just, I mean, she showed up physically, but mentally or competitively, it was like she didn't even show up.
Yeah, I saw her heat. I'm trying to remember who beat her, but it felt like number 70 in the world took her down or something.
Which was really surprising because I felt like all the other surfers leveled up. Like everybody had a certain kind of spark that I don't know was always showing on the CT, but this was almost more important to them, you know?
Yeah. That was a bummer. That was a definite bummer because you just don't feel like in 4 years. I mean, how rad is it going to be when the women are at Chopu in 4 years or 3 years, actually?
Let's get Bianca Buitendog back there.
That's going to be insane. Well,
Bianca Buitendog can just build her career off the Olympics at this point. She doesn't even have to show up for CT.
She should. You know what? She should. I'm okay with that. Now, a couple other shout outs I want to give. I know you have some more, but we need to give a big shout out to Timmy Patterson, the guy who shapes all of Idolo's boards. And I was talking to a friend of mine who's really tight with Timmy. And the basic vibe with Tim Patterson surfboards is let's just get everything back to basics. Let's just get everything to neutral. And I think you and I spoke about this last time, but Timmy Patterson's really about, like, if you look at the basics of Idolo's boards, they come from a 1984 tri-fin. You know, the outline and obviously fin placement and just rockers. Now, obviously they've changed some stuff. They've obviously changed rockers a little bit, but they're obviously closer to 1984 than they are to 1991.
Yeah.
You know, we've flattened everything out and we've added volume and we got to get a little wider in the nose because the guys are doing aerials again now, you know, so the 84 outline is a really neutral, simple outline. And there's not much change really. If you really look at it, like, okay, we've added some double concave or some single concave, but the outline's the same. We might've thinned out the beak a little bit, but it's still volume up in the chest area. And it's a little flatter rocker. And maybe we added, you know, 1/2 inch of tail rocker. And, you know, of course, there's some minor tweaks for each design. You know, you got a beach break tri-fin, you got a point break tri-fin, blah, blah, blah. But Timmy Patterson's boards, and I think what we're going to see, and this is what I'm doing, by the way. So maybe it's just me kind of projecting, but I'm really neutralizing. I'm really kind of like coming back to basics. And, because I've gone off the deep end with all sorts of different designs and I've sort of lost my way is how I feel.
I'm wondering, so generally what happens with design is you go and experiment out on the fringe, but you find something there that's relevant and you scale that back to kind of fit the more neutral general thing, but there was value in the experimentation. Did you find value in any of your experimentation?
Well, I mean, so the way it's worked for me is I've found a board that was out there that really worked great. Rather than kind of building up to that out there board, I found a board that was out there that really worked great. And so to come back to neutral was hard because I don't know the way home. There's no breadcrumbs, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I've ridden some crazy boards and went, wow, this board's fast. It must be the rail. Please put this rail on my board. And then that board turned to crap because I didn't have breadcrumbs to lead. And maybe it wasn't the rail, maybe it was something else. But anyway, Timmy Patterson deserves a big shout out. And Matt Biolis, I mean, his boards won gold under Carissa's feet. And And another shout out to Chris Cote. I don't know if you saw his Instagram this morning, but
I did.
Pretty emotional. Chris Cote, I thought, and I get it. When you're announcing the very first ever gold medal on the beach, I get choked up when I'm announcing the winner of the friggin' Boardroom Icons of Foam Shape Off,
Totally.
And so it's pretty cool for Chris. So good job, Chris Cote. I'm stoked on Chris. And
congrats for getting that role too. I mean, him, Barton, Sal, Joe Turpel, all from our kind of awareness, got the invites, went out there and did their job. So congrats to all of them. But I agree with you with Chris Cote. It's bigger than all of us. You know what I mean? Like our little surf events, the CT events that we do, it's insular, it's our own thing. And, but it's, I don't know, this is just bigger than all of us. It's part of a much bigger global community.
Okay, let me then now throw a curveball at you and the listeners, because I was talking to some friends about this and we kind of came up with a theory, not a theory, but a thought. And the thought is that there are too many sports in the Olympics. And if we all agree that there are too many sports in the Olympics, and maybe that's a huge leap right in and of itself, but if we agree that that's the case, couldn't we get rid of sports that we don't need? And how do we determine sports that we don't need? And here's how my friends and I figured it out. If you are a sport and your ultimate event isn't the Olympic Games,
right,
then you shouldn't be in the Olympic Games. In other words, golf's ultimate event there's 4 of them, really. Like there's the Masters, the British Open, like those 4 majors are the big ones. And you ask any golfer, and that's the way it's been for 150 years, right? Tennis is the same way. Do we really need tennis in the Olympics? Some of the guys don't even show up. They're like, I'm good, I've won Wimbledon. You know what I mean? Like, and others like baseball, the World Series, basketball, quite frankly, the best international players in the world play in the NBA. We don't need basketball in the Olympics.
It's a good point.
I would suggest to you surfing's one of those. The ultimate event in surfing is what?
Pipe.
Exactly. It rolls off the tongue so naturally. Everyone knows it. The Pipe Masters is the ultimate event in surfing. And to win the Pipe Masters, I would argue, is a much bigger deal than winning an Olympic gold. Now, maybe that changes over time.
It'll take time, to really determine that, because right now the gold feels like the ultimate.
More important than the Pipe Masters.
Right.
I'm sure for the athletes it might be, because you're representing nations and stuff like that.
And because there's only one, like there's a couple dozen Pipe Masters. There's only one Olympic gold medalist for
one every 4 years. So there's that.
Yeah. So I don't know. I want to agree, because especially when you say baseball, it's like I don't remember any gold medal baseball winners, like it has zero relevance or importance for a professional baseball player, essentially. But I think maybe the value in the Olympics is it exists outside of all of the bureaucracy and whatever political, influence that professional sporting might have. And not that all professional sporting does, but they're subject to it. They're subject to the brands that are sponsoring. They're subject to, whatever deals are in place. And I think the Olympics is kind of more pure in that sense. It's just, you don't have to even participate in the NBA. I don't know how it works for the criteria for getting Olympians into the basketball competition, but in theory, you could probably not be in the NBA, come from some obscure country, and potentially win gold against NBA stars. That would be exciting, right?
Well, I that would be exciting. That's like a Hollywood script. I doubt that's ever going to happen. The NBA, specifically baskodball, we might lose this year. Like we've already lost to France, and we have an uphill battle for the United States to win gold. Odds are we're going to win every game from that. We have to win every game from here on out. But my point is that we don't even have the best team. Like our USA basketball team this year isn't the best team we could field. Like LeBron James isn't on the team.
Got it.
You know what I mean? Like, and so they're kind of mailing it in. And guys are going, I'll pass. We already had the dream team in 04 or whatever it was at Barcelona, and we're good. Well, no, that was
Got it.
92 or something. Anyway, my point is, I think that if you really like, if you think about swimming, what's the most important event for swimming? It's the Olympics,
Oh, right, right. Yeah.
right? And so, and like for like, for archery, it's definitely the Olympics. Like that's the biggest deal. Now for surfing, it's the Pipe Masters, and for golf, it's the Masters, and for tennis, it's the U.S. Open or Wimbledon.
Right.
And so I think those sports that it's just very obvious that the Olympic Games isn't the most important event on their schedule, then I could see how, get rid of them. Give the mojo to the guy that's doing archery or whatever.
So kickback against that idea is, what do you care how many sports there are in the Olympics? There's so many people that love baseball that are thrilled. And by the way, the entire baseball organization would never let them get kicked off. They recognize it as a big.
Oh yeah, no, I agree.
So,
I'm just
saying, like, what do you care? You don't have to watch it.
I'm bringing up for the sake of this podcast. I actually, I'm okay with it. I'm stoked that surfing's in it. But the reason I think it came to the forefront for me and my buddies, and my son brought it up too, is that right now it feels like for skateboarding, the Olympics are the most important event. But for surfing, it doesn't feel that way. And part of it is COVID. There just haven't been any skate competitions at all.
Yeah.
Very, very few. And my son was saying, look, the big thing in skateboarding is just put out an edit. Like if you put out the sickest edit, then you win skateboarding with the sickest edit. It has nothing to do with competition. So for an Olympic worldwide competition for skateboarding, it's a big deal. And it just doesn't feel quite that way with some other sports. That's all. And basketball comes to mind specifically.
What do you, we expressed a lot of concern that the Olympics would make surfing more popular than it's ever been, and then our beaches would be more crowded and all that sort of stuff. What are your thoughts on that now?
I don't think it can get more popular. I think it's really, really, really popular. Like it's like maxed out popular. I think it's actually after this COVID thing like dies down in the news cycle and everything, I think everything kind of pulls back a little bit.
Do you think the Olympics will had any play or role in any of that?
Becoming less popular or more popular? No.
Becoming more popular?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
It wasn't broadcast nationally on
it. It wasn't. And I think that not only was it not broadcast on the main feed, but also I don't feel like they really did any character building in the way that they've done for other sports, or in the way that they've promoted for other sports. I know the Washington Post did an article on Caroline Marks. Wasn't that interesting? I think it might've been the New York Times. I saw on Instagram did a post and probably a story attached to it for Nyjah Houston, the skater.
Yeah.
It's compelling. It was like his background of being, I forget which, maybe Jamaica. Was it Jamaica that he's from? But like being born here, being taken back home to his parents' small island, being raised in poverty, his dad forcing him to skate. His dad loved skating, got him into skating, came back, got some big contract when he was super young, spent millions of dollars, got a rap sheet, got in trouble with the law, got all of this character building that I was like, man, I want to know more about this kid. And I know I have an awareness of who he is. I just don't follow skating, so I didn't know any of that backstory. But the fact that the Olympics fed me that backstory, all of a sudden I was invested in him as an athlete. And of course, we know that they've done this in the past with lots of other sports, and they've pulled us into the Olympics that way. I don't feel like they did that at all with any of the surfers. But to be honest, none of the surfers really have that interesting of a story,
Well, the other side of this too is from an aspirational standpoint. If I'm a young kid and I see some guy shooting an arrow or I see a guy running a triathlon, all I really got to do is get up and learn how to run, or get up and learn how to shoot an arrow. To learn how to surf, I have to learn how to swim. I have to deal with these incredible elements. Oh yeah, there's sharks. It just doesn't seem as attainable. If I'm, you know what I mean? You could see a kid going, wow, look at friggin' that Ledecky girl. She's an incredible swimmer. Mommy, I want to be a swimmer in the Olympics. Okay, throw him in the pool. You know, like it's just so much an easier track. And even skateboarding. Okay, Najee Houston's dad, get him a skateboard when he's 4 years old.
Yeah.
You know, and just surfing is just aspirationally, there's so many more hurdles. And so it's just you're not gonna get that story like kid came from nowhere and became the Olympic gold medal champion or whatever, you know.
I agree. Quick side note about learning how to surf.
Yes.
I mentioned I got together for dinner with some buddies on Saturday night. Couple of them, two of them were visiting from Minnesota, and they're both in their late 50s. And so our mutual friend was like, hey, the guy's nickname is Moose from Minnesota. So he's like, hey, Moose, it's on his bucket list to surf. He wants to ride a wave. And he's like, do you have a soft top? And I'm like, no, but I have a buddy who has a soft top. So I go out of my way on Friday, swing by my buddy's house, pick up a soft top, mule it over to Moose on Saturday night. And Moose is like, yeah, you know, are the waves going to be too big tomorrow? Are they going to be too small? Like, what should I be prepared for? Cause you know, I'm going to get up and I'm going to ride a wave because it's on my bucket list. I was like, Moose, reset all expectations. There is zero chance that you're going to ride a wave tomorrow. When do you fly home? Because maybe you can spend 5 days trying to ride a wave and then maybe. And he goes, no, you don't understand. Like I've grown up, you know, snowboarding and this and that. And I wakeboard. And I go, all of that helps with balance once you're on your feet. But that's like a year down the road. Like you're going to be just trying to find comfort laying on your board and paddling. Maybe you'll sit on your board. Maybe you'll learn how to catch a wave. But even that, it takes so much time to figure out which wave to go on, which part of the wave, which one has the most push, like whatever. And he's like, man, you're really kind of deflating my hopes here. And I go, I'm just trying to set realistic expectations for you. Don't beat yourself up if you don't stand up, you know? So he drank heavily. He got wasted on Saturday night.
Right.
So then, and they were going to go Sunday morning. So I'm like, dude, Sunday morning, there's probably no chance he even shows up. I got photos from our mutual friend at 7:30 with Moose standing on waves in trunks at 7:30 in the morning at Bolsa Chica, fully riding whitewash.
Wow. Yeah, I don't think it's too much of an ask to get somebody to ride whitewash on their first day.
He's looking at 60, dude. He's like late 50s.
Yeah, but you're underestimating Moose.
Apparently
power of Moose.
Apparently so.
Hold on for a sec. My dog's
okay.
Moose.
You ever think about getting a dog trainer to work with your dog's barking?
My dog likes to bark to protect me. So when he hears weird sounds, he goes out there and lets everyone know that you gotta stay clear, bro. Stay clear of the compound.
Do you ever think about getting a trainer to educate your dog about real threats? If he barks incessantly, what are you living in Fallujah? Like,
all threats are real. All threats are real. That's what I've taught him.
Okay. This had nothing to do with needing to go to the bathroom.
Of course not. Come on.
Oh, okay.
I'll let you know if I gotta go to the bathroom.
All right. Well, shout out to Moose and congratulations on checking a bucket list item. I mean, I literally told him he's my hero. Like I completely talked him down, and that is what I do best, apparently, based on our lead up to the Olympics. Just like reset expectations. It's gonna be flat. It's gonna be cold. It's gonna be crappy. And then I think I'm responsible actually for all of these people's success because they feel a need to prove me wrong. So you're motivated, everybody. Exactly. John Florence, let's stay with the Olympics for a minute.
Yeah,
John Florence loses to Chloe Andino and may sit out the rest of the season due to his injury. Did you see this?
No.
John said, anything I can do for my long-term health, I'm gonna do. I'll most likely make the decision in the next day or two. The surgery I got was a repair and not a recovery. So I'm within the time frame that it's pretty good to compete, but waves like Mexico and Tahiti are very powerful. With a healthy knee, it's risky. So even if my knee is at 90%, it's a little more risk than I want to take. So I'm going to take all that into account before I commit to those events.
Okay, so he's not saying he's not going to go. He's just not sure if he's going to go.
He's going to make a decision in the next couple of days. Probably
this
get home, let his doctors assess it.
This all sounds to me like he's not going to go.
You know, I think he'd have to feel remarkably good to go because, yeah, I agree. And I by the way, I agree with his philosophy and that long-term health should be the focus here.
Yeah. I mean, this year's kind of a waste anyway. Why not just hold on?
Presuming you can secure his spot on next year's, you know, he won't be fighting for a wild card injury or whatever, like he'll just get it. Then I would absolutely, sit out. I mean, it's a weird year. Plus Gabriel Medina has basically a lock on that first place position. A lot is kind of unknown about that finals day, or we're unsure how that finals day format is actually going to look in hindsight. So I don't mind John sitting out. I'd love to see him surf Mexico and Chopu, but whatever. I don't mind if he sits out.
Let me ask you this. Who's our world champion right now?
Gabe. Oh, our current world champ, Idolo?
That's my point. Like,
yeah,
I think
Idolo,
it's Idolo from 2019.
Yeah.
So Idolo Ferreira holds the gold medal and the world championship.
Yep. Deservedly so.
That's pretty cool. Good for him.
Yep. I mean, honestly, I'm looking at him and Gabe as the ultimate sparring partners this year. I mean, they went back-to-back finals in Australia. Obviously coming off of the Pipeline final in 2019. They met up this year at Pipe this season at Pipe for event number 1, I think in the quarters or the semis. And so that's a real rivalry.
I totally agree. And I think that that's something that they need to highlight a little more. It's just a fact, you know. We've got the two greatest Brazilian goofy foots. And even though I sort of, at least, I sort of secretly want like a nation versus nation rivalry.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter because in many ways you have two complete opposite human beings. And as you mentioned a few weeks ago, Gabe Medina is totally growing on me. Like the guy's just too legit to not, it's kind of like when you see, Nadal and Djokovic, it's like, they're just too great not to appreciate both of them. You know what I mean?
Look, when we have all of the concern about the Olympic venue, and then Gabriel, and by the way, it's verified or validated by the first 3 or 4 heats you watch, where it's just mediocre surfing, and then Gabriel Medina shows up and entertains you and lands crazy airs. How do you not love that?
I mean, first wave, like the Olympics, man, Gabe, just mind-blowing first wave, just friggin'.
I know.
Yeah.
So Gabe, what's not to love about him? And by the way, I feel like he saved that Australian leg of the tour this year too. His performances there, that spectacular left closeout air that he did, where he cleared like 30 yards, stuff like that. It's just, you can count on him to rescue you if you're ever concerned about the wave or anything.
Or just
like
seeing, it's just gotten a little bit too 3 to the beachy, know?
In that respect, I would like to actually condemn.
Yes. Here we go.
The show. The Jeremy Flores is of the world, and this is more a condemnation. I can now throw the condemnation back at the WSL for venue choices because when the waves are big and pumping, Jeremy, of course, is the most exciting surfer in the lineup. But if it's the Olympic venue, like his style of surfing, and even Michelle Perez, who surfed well in this event, that style of surfing, it's you're looking for these kind of marginally better performances or waves than the other. It's like, is he going to get a 6.5 or a 6.8? Ooh, somebody got a 6.9. Somebody pushed a 7. Like that. We don't need that anymore. We have so many hours and hours and hours and hundreds of maybe thousands of heats of that type of stuff over and over again. We're at a point in this sport where it needs to be redlining at all times. It needs to be what Gabriel and Idolo are doing. That's all we're going to see. That's all we're going to reward. That's all we want to see. And there's only 5 of them that do it. Fine. We're having those 5 surfers.
Yeah,
like,
I totally agree. Look, get me 8 of the group, 8 really red hot surfers, and put them at Kandui Island for that left for a week, and you'll have more viewers than you've ever had in your life.
Totally.
I mean, and if the WSL puts the kibosh on their athletes, fine. Get me Josh Kerr. You know who I'd like to see? I'd like to see Kalani Chapman, Josh Kerr. Get Dorian. I mean, there's a million red hot guys that we could get at that left out there.
Where did you come up with Kalani Chapman?
Just think about it. Kalani Chapman at 8 foot. That's where he'll shine.
That's true. That's a deep pull.
It is a deep pull, but that's my point. You can do deep pulls and be satisfied with the talent level.
Yeah. So I got a listener email I can read to you. This was sent to us originally in 2017. We never read it on air, and then he resent it. He resent it this week. Mark, he's a fan of those who spit. So Mark deserves this to be read for his diligence. He said most team sports have some sort of an all-star game where they play during the season. It doesn't count for anything, and it's more for the enjoyment of the fans than anything else. I'd like to see the WSL have an all-star event, and here's how I would like it to go. This is where we go off the rails a little bit.
Yeah, I remember I read this.
The initial idea was good, but now it goes sideways. It could be held at a wave pool. So you could pack out the place with fans. You could invite the top 10 men, top 10 women. You could divide them into 2 teams. Short boards don't need to be allowed. Long boards, have them ride long boards, have them ride alternative short boards. It could be, there wouldn't be any traditional competitive kind of high performance surfing, but instead consist of a bunch of mini categories. You could use the best prop while surfing, the best pose while surfing, most team members riding the board at the same time. I know it's goofy, but that's the point. Just a really fun competition with no stress. Is this even a good idea? What kind of all-star event would you like to see? Keep on spitting, Mark.
All-star event. It's hard enough to get the event done in good waves.
I love the idea of an all-star event for all the reasons we stated. I don't need the props or the multiple surfers on one wave. I don't even need it in a wave pool. I actually prefer it's not in a wave pool, but I love the idea of an all-star event.
All-stars at lowers in the finals day. Now you've just made the finals day way too long.
It doesn't need to. It doesn't even need to be the same day. You know what I mean? It could be what you're saying. Do a Kandui boat trip.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know if that's an all-star game, but yeah. All right.
It's an exhibition, No.
The Kandui thing is going to be for $1 million. Like the Kandui thing is going to be like, it's on the line,
That's fine.
Yeah.
I think that fits too. The idea is take the best in the world and put them in an event where it's outside of the traditional point structure and all that sort of thing. It's just to watch the best surfers perform. I had a discouraging, exactly in relation to what we're talking about right now. I had a discouraging text exchange with a WSL staffer who's dismayed by me saying that the WSL format is regressive and doubling down, insisting that it is regressive, or I'm sorry, that it is progressive. And that the surfing gets better on tour every year. And that's proof enough. And I thought,
you must be getting some crazy emails from the WSL. You're on there. You've officially become like the one that they want to hate. Huh?
Well, they're missing the point entirely then. Okay. We're providing, we want them to succeed in their goal. And you just said that Kandui example will get more viewers. All they want is viewers.
Unless they do it, unless the WSL does it.
What do you
Whoever
mean?
does it is, my point is, it doesn't matter who does it. WSL, Red Bull, you, me, whoever
Exactly.
does that friggin' Can Dewey event or does an event at J Bay for 4 hours. I just want a 4-hour event. I don't need a 4-day event.
That's my point exactly, is that we want them to achieve their goal in more viewership, more advertisers, all that sort of thing. And so us giving this feedback is a blueprint for that goal, and pointing out reasons why they're not actually engaging the market that they're aiming for. So you're right. If I'm on their list of people that they want to hate or don't want to listen to, then they're entirely missing the point. You know, like they could be leveraging a lot of this feedback because there's value in it.
I agree. Are you kidding? All of your good ideas came from me anyway.
Well, thank you. That's not true.
I know. I'm just kidding.
The limited number of surfers you've been harping on for a decade. But this is all in relation to us talking about Stab High last week.
Yeah.
And me saying that that's a progressive format, you know?
Yeah.
And whether or not it was filmed 2 or 3 months ago and edited or whatever, the point is it's elevating, it's requiring surfers to level up and to go bigger than they've ever gone before. And not just the surfers that are in the competition, the surfers that are also professional surfers on the CT watching that. You know, like Idolo Ferreira's air yesterday would have won Stab High. You know, like that was, everything gets bumped up because of what's happening in internet land and for free surfers who are just watching it and going to the beach and aspiring to greatness. So that was the comparison. And to the WSL's point, or against their point, is we're not beholden to them. They should be grateful there's not a lot of other competition that's vying for our attention right now. But Stab has been making inroads with Stab 100 and things like that. Red Bull's done it a few times, and they're not beholden to all of the same infrastructure, so they can kind of reinvent the wheel, and they will steal market share, you know? So
Purple Blob Tour.
Exactly. One or two other things. Luca Macinas from Peru almost, he's Peru. Almost was the underdog story that you and I were talking about, who will come out of the Olympics and become, you know, like out of obscurity. And we were talking about Hiroto Ohara being that person. Luca Macinas really surfed amazingly. And I think he made the quarterfinals, took down some big names. And so shout out to him. It'd be nice to see more of him in the future. My beloved Carlos Munoz.
He no-showed.
I know. Well, he got the call up. Federico Moraes tested positive for COVID.
Yeah.
So Federico was supposed to surf in the event. He was not able to. So they called up Carlos Munoz at the last minute. And there was tons of jumping, plane flights, obviously, jumping through hoops. And ultimately, he didn't make it. There was one non-elimination round early. And so he knew he was going to miss that, but he was hoping to get there in time to surf the next round. And it was literally going to be a matter of kind of half a day, a few hours. And so they were petitioning the ISA or the whoever committee to hold off the event for half a day so that Carlos could get there and represent. But ultimately, there was a limited swell window. And so they decided that, you know, we can't hold up and potentially run the finals in crappy waves just so Carlos can get here. So Carlos no-showed, but it's exciting for a moment.
Yeah, I noticed that he didn't make it. I saw his name on the draw and I was disappointed for you mostly.
Really, that prediction from 8 years ago, you know, it obviously failed, but there was a glimmer of hope that I could have been like Nostradamus and like, against all odds, nailed it.
Just think if it was Matt Banting versus Carlos Munoz in the Olympic gold medal final.
Gold and silver, baby.
You would have been like, people might have bought into some of this stuff.
I couldn't have even picked a winner if it was left up to me. They're just both, I would molt the gold and the silver together and then cut it in half and give them to both.
Let me ask you this. The next Olympics are in Tahiti. They're going to be at Chopu. Who's your women's gold medalist?
Sally Fitzgibbons or Caroline Marks.
How about this one? I like Caroline Marks a lot. How about Sierra Kerr?
Yeah.
Huh?
Done.
Dude, in 4 years? How old is she now? Like 14?
Yeah.
She'll be 18. She probably will. The only thing that she doesn't have is competitive chops, but she's got a father who does have competitive chops. So she's got a great coach.
Yeah.
Does she do enough competitions? Because when I think of Caroline Marks and Sally, they're kind of bulldogs. Like they're going to charge over the ledge. And I know Sierra will too, or at least I believe she will based on stuff we've seen from her out of Indonesia. That would be random, huh? And tell me about.
It wouldn't be random. It would be telegraphed a decade in advance. I mean, you're right. The shot has already been fired across the bow. She's doing gnarlier airs than the girls on tour. She's charging
but
just as
Chopu is going to be about charging.
But she's charging just as hard as the girls on tour. I mean, actually harder. I've seen gnarlier big wave barrel clips from her than I've seen from 99% of the Women's World Tour.
Chopu is the one Olympic spot where we could see somebody like
Moana Jones,
Joanne Daru, winning the gold for men, or
for men,
or what's the French guy's name?
Oh yeah, Joanne Daru. Yeah.
Like a charging goofy foot. You know what I mean? That's not on the CT. That's from Portugal or where like some rando that just charges. Like a guy like
totally.
Who's the guy that was on the CT from Spain or maybe he's from
Eretz, Aaron Buru.
Yes, exactly. Eretz, that guy. He's just a tube hound.
Yep.
That guy could win the Olympic gold. You know what I mean? That's the cool thing about Chopu is that we know what we're dealing with here. We're going to be dealing with just who's got the balls to go over the ledge and get slotted. I mean, Owen Wright comes to mind for Australia. He's done well there before. I think he's won there before, right? Jeremy Flores
he's won
for
Cloud
France.
Yeah. And by the way, Owen Wright really showed up and blew up at the Olympics.
He blowed up, man. He did.
He goes better. Right. Yeah. So that was good to see him kind of back in fine form.
I mean, it's now's the time to start thinking about 3 years from now, right?
Totally.
And I hate to say it, but I think we've made our calls.
Well, the women, I mean, ought to be out there on free surf trips. I know Lakey Peterson went last year. Caroline Marks has been there for free surf, but you're absolutely right. Like this is where you start doing all the prep. Yeah. A couple of other things about the viewing experience. They're cutting away to commercials at a predetermined time. Yeah. So, it'd literally be 90 seconds left in a heat with an important score being needed. A wave is on the way and they cut to commercial. And the commentators don't even call the cut. It just cuts abruptly. So they could get that sorted out, I think.
Yeah, I got an email like that too from a listener that was disappointed in that. Barton Lynch, your thoughts?
The commentary team I thought was awesome.
Yeah.
I thought this was actually an improvement on what the WSL does. So for those who didn't watch, you had Barton, who knows exactly what's happening and providing all of the information, paired with an English dude who didn't know anything about surfing at all, who's kind of representing arguably the vastest audience who doesn't know what's going on with surfing. So Barton's kind of educating him up. So I thought that dynamic actually worked fine, but more importantly, they weren't trying to fill all 30 minutes of airtime. There was lots of dead air, which I thought worked totally fine.
Yeah. Agreed.
More importantly, they weren't overly enthusiastic about every single wave surfed like we see in the WSL commentary booth. Like a surfer will surf a wave to a 3 and Joe Turpel acts like it's an important ride, whereas this was just a much more, I feel like, honest and accurate reflection of what we were experiencing as the viewers.
Yeah. No, I thought they did a good job. The one thing I would say is that the sound quality was off a little bit. The audio quality, it seemed like they were picking up a lot of ambient wind or something. At least that's what my feed sounded like. But anyway, nitpicking.
Overall, did you have thoughts on whether this was superior or inferior to what we're accustomed to?
I think if it wasn't the Olympics, we'd be poo-pooing this event.
Okay.
You know, like I don't think
That's
I would tune in for 4 to 6 foot onshore French beach break. I don't even think they would have called the event on. They probably
Right.
went, you know what, let's wait a little while. There's going to be offshore winds in a week or whatever.
Again, we set our expectations so low that it provided
Yeah.
excitement for us.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
well, congrats on pulling off a great event. I know
Fernando, again, we'll give it a shout out to Fernando.
Well, he's my Duke.
Oh, is he? Oh, good.
He's got to be.
Yeah, he's my Duke too. He's my Duke too.
You know Fernando personally, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
Tell us, what do we need to know about Fernando?
He's singularly focused in getting the Olympics, surfing into the Olympics, and he's succeeded. And he's a large personality. He's extremely driven. He's politically savvy. He knows, at least he has a plan on how and when to get stuff done, and he follows through on his plan. And 9 times out of 10, his plan seems to have worked. And so, you know, he's a little bombastic, but that's what, you know, I mean, I guess that, you know, that's what they say about certain leaders. You know, it's a lot of leaders need to sort of be outsized, and he's certainly an outsized personality. And I like Fernando. I think I've had personal conversations with him, and one-on-one, he's a great guy. Now, he can kind of big league you occasionally, a big league me, you know, like, and I don't hold that against him. I think he's just, you know, like I said, he's got the will to get stuff done. And if you're in his way, he's not going to pussyfoot around you. He's just going to go, you're in my way, get out of the way. You know what I mean?
So Fernando Aguirre founded Reef Sandals, right? See the soul.
Well,
founder?
Actually, his brother and Santiago.
Okay.
Santi probably deserves more credit than he gets. So Santi's sort of like the backbone of the business. At least I don't know too much about it, but you can't talk Reef without talking about Santiago as well as Fernando. But Fernando gets a lot of the limelight.
Are they from Argentina?
Argentina, yeah, Argentina.
So, do you know anything about his backstory before he founded Reef Sandals?
I think they were both lawyers or going to law school in Argentina or something, or they were going to continue their, you know, when they were 22 or whatever. And I think Santi started the business, and he came over here first. And I believe, and I could be butchering this whole story, so I apologize if I am, but I believe then Fernando followed him to the United States, and they were both surfers. And you know, they just, like I said, they just sort of forced, through sheer will, they forced themselves on the surf industry. And you couldn't deny the market share that they had. They saw a great opportunity in the sandal market and just dominated it. And once they took over, you know, they like I said, they became sort of pillars of the surf industry in the 80s and 90s.
Who did he sell that business to?
Some some conglomerate.
Do you know what they made on it?
I don't know the number, but they did very, very well.
Yeah. So Fernando, and that was, 15 or 20 years ago at this point, right? So he's not involved with the brand anymore, but Fernando did well through that. And so for the last 20 years has kind of focused all of his efforts on the ISA in developing this concept that would eventually become the Olympics. And so that's the person that we're talking about with that level of kind of
drive,
passion, industry, clout, political
well, you got to
influence,
understand,
know-how.
He went from like being kind of a nobody in the surf industry and just forcing his will on the surf industry and forcing his business, and he killed it. And he became a huge part of the surf industry. And just as he was an outsider in the surf industry, he was an outsider to the International Olympic Committee politics. And he had to go in there and kind of go, hey, I'm here and I'm not leaving. And I'm sure some people brushed him aside more than once. And he put on an even louder tie. And, he just he knows how to get people's attention. And he sort of did what he did in the surf industry. He did that to the Olympic politics, the space that is the Olympics, the international space. And he befriended the right people and got people into his corner and got advocates for surfing in the Olympics and made the right friends. And he's smart enough to know who those guys are. He identifies, okay, this is the guy I got to get in my corner. And he went out and got that guy in his corner.
Yep.
And that's nobody else. I doubt greatly we'd be in the Olympics. I mean, we all know we wouldn't be in the Olympics if it wasn't for Fernando. But I mean, we would be exactly where we were in 1977 as far as getting surfing into the Olympics if it weren't for Fernando, because nobody had the energy, the time, the money, the space, you needed a lot of things to line up. You know, other people are like, yeah, I could do it, but I'm busy doing my business, you know?
Of course.
So Fernando is like perfect person for this.
So Fernando's my Duke for all of those reasons, and for charging ahead and like just rolling over obstacles and naysayers and haters and all of it.
Yes.
He saw the vision. He understood it. I don't know that there's a huge financial incentive for him in this. It seems to me that it's more of a passion play for surfing as a whole. And so I'm impressed.
Well, yeah, we all should be. I mean, like I said, you know, if Fernando wanted to be the first guy to land on Mars, he would figure out the plan to make that happen.
What do you think about Fernando as a future WSL CEO?
No way. He's way above that. Fernando's now he's either going to retire or he's going to go into the political sphere within the Olympics. Like I wouldn't be surprised if Fernando is the president of the International Olympic Committee. That's the kind of mojo this guy has. Like,
yeah.
Mark my words, Fernando Aguirre will be the president of the International Olympic Committee in like 10 years.
Okay.
I said it here.
Marked. Him and Carlos Munoz will be winning gold in that event.
He won't have anything to do with Carlos Munoz.
Shots fired. All right. Well, so that's my Duke. I do want to talk about Stab High. Episode 1 premiered last week. Episode 2 will be this Thursday at 7. Yeah. But we can do that next week. We're running out of time, so we'll hit that hard next week.
Yeah, good. Stab High next week. We'll talk about it.
What do you need to tell people about the Boardroom Show?
Dude, it's happening September 25th and 26th, 2 months from now. Tickets will go on sale at the beginning of August, in about a week or so. We've got a massive show planned. There's going to be a live stream. So if you're in Europe or England or Australia or New Zealand or wherever the hell you might be, you can watch the show being live streamed by Keyed In, a business software company. And we've got Boardroom Talks presented by boardshaper.com. We've got the Icons of Foam honoring Pat Rawson, 8 shapers competing as we highlight and lift up the art and craft of building surfboards. And we've got How It's Made by Douglas Surf Company and RevChem Composites. And we've got Best in Show, surfboard builders from around the world bringing their surfboards, their best created a board build off, if you will. And that's being brought to us by Zio Baffa Organic Italian Wines. And a whole lot of beautiful surfboards, the entire surfboard manufacturing industry. This is their trade show, and the public is invited. And it's going to be a great show. We're excited about it. Of course, the whole thing presented by US Blanks, our sponsor for many, many years. And we appreciate everything that US Blanks does for the surfboard manufacturing industry. And
you talked about Keyed In providing the software for the live stream. Where is it going to be viewable on?
Surfline.
Perfect.
Yeah, it'll be live streamed, distributed via Surfline, and probably some other platforms, but that's the main one.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And
of course, California Gold Surf Auction is happening a week after that. So California Gold Surf Auction, that's going to be insane. We've got something like 40 plus incredible vintage surfboards and surf memorabilia. And I've got some mind-blowing stuff, man. We got a Simmons, we've got all sorts of incredible brewers and Bings and Yaters and Steve Liss, Skip Fry. We've got some just mind-blowing stuff. I'm really blown away by the level of stuff that we've got in this year's auction.
How does it get better every year?
I don't know, but this, like, the stuff that we've got, it's just more pristine. Like, there's just the stuff we've got is just mental.
People are coming out of the woodwork.
It's beautiful. I'm just excited about it.
Awesome. All right,
Yeah.
Scott. Well, good show. Congrats. Exciting to watch the Olympics. What are you going to do now for the next week that we don't have surfing in the Olympics?
I am very busy. I'm busy.
Well, the WCT event in Mexico kicks off on August 10th. So we'll have one show before that. We can kind of do a look at the field, look at the forecast, figure out what's coming, and then back into surf competition.
That sounds like fun. I'm looking forward actually to watching that event at Barak. It'd be really good.
Me too. All right.
All right. Well, Dave, until next time, adios and aloha.